Welcome to Narratives Leadership Story Talks, where great leaders go beyond the bottom line to create lasting impact. Join hosts Jerome and Julienne Ryan as they uncover the stories behind real-world challenges, offering practical insights to help you lead with empathy, authenticity, and purpose. Each episode dives into how leaders use storytelling to build trust, foster connection, and inspire action. Whether you're navigating workplace dynamics, driving change, or building high-performing teams.
A beautiful fall day in central New York, running up this steep hill, nearly in last place, and my father waiting for me as all the other parents had already left, as I'm kind of trying to make my way to the top of that hill. And, you know, those moments of where you could just give up and decide, this might not be for me, this is not what I'm good at. It would have been something that I could have done. And my dad encouraged me not to continue to try. And by the time I was a senior, I became the captain of those teams. But I was still terrible. And this is what I think really shaped me. And it really is kind of the foundation of my upcoming book, because it's really about finding what you're good at. And I wasn't a good athlete, and I was never going to be a good athlete. But what I was good at was trying to be a little bit better next time than I was this time.
Hello, welcome back. So that was George Pesansky telling us about this rather, not so comfortable failure of his, but what he learned from it, most importantly. And I think that's really why we tell these kinds of stories. But I encourage everybody to go and listen to the full interview with George, because there's lots of different analogies and how you can improve processes just based on that one story. So really interesting. And you can go to narrative.com/podcast, where you'll find our entire archive, but look for this particular episode to hear more from him and his insights. But for now, what we're going to do is debrief a little bit about that particular piece of running up that hill, and you're dead last, and everybody else has already gone to the coffee shop and gone their separate ways, and you're the only one whose dad is still there waiting for you, and you've got a choice. Am I going to give up, or am I going to try to get up that hill anyway? And that's what George decided to do. And he comes up with this analogy to sort of show how you can, use these moments to try and get a little bit better every time, and to not be afraid of those kinds of failures, because actually that's this failure. See, this word is very negative, but at the end of the day, that's a lesson. That's a lesson that he learned, and I love that story that he told. But yeah, love to hear your thoughts about this, Julienne.
I'm with you on this, because George showed what he was made of, literally, about using finding resilience, finding grit, and showing up. And I think it was an awesome example that the students, the athletes, his fellow athletes, recognized that capability later on, that they didn't need someone who could tell them how to run faster or how to, use their muscles. They had a coach for that. But they had somebody in their mix that were going to show them how to succeed and try a little bit better and really hold themselves accountable and keep learning. And that's how they're building their success. So I have so many good things to say, but I want to make sure I let you get a word in edgewise about other points. So excellent example about leadership.
Yeah, and what was really interesting, if you listen to the whole interview, you'll see that he applies this analogy to process improvements, and one of the things that he focuses on, and encourages everyone to focus on, are the successes, the times when things worked out, and he includes that time that he came last as a success, actually, because he looked at that moment and looked at what worked, what was going well, and what encouraged him to get better next time. And that's what he's applying everywhere. And his point was to say that we spend way too much time on the negative moments, trying to see what went wrong, why things went wrong, and try to make that better. But then we've got all these moments where things were successful, and we're not actually getting the lessons from those things. We're not trying to say, okay, why did that go well? What was going on process-wise that we could make consistent? And he talks about, rather than looking at these negative moments, let's look at the 20, 30-year, 40-year veteran of the company who's been doing things consistently well. Because that person, when they leave, we say, oh gosh, we lost them. No, what you actually did was you gave up on them. And so I really resonate with that, because to me, when somebody leaves a company with all their knowledge, we do kind of say, oh, woe is me. That person is gone. How are we going to replace them? It's just going to be impossible. And all that knowledge is gone. And all these things that they just did so well, we're going to have to start over. No, actually, you can capture that knowledge. You can capture that knowledge and transfer it to the next person so that you're not starting from scratch. And one of the things that we do is we use storytelling to capture that knowledge. So we actually interview people who've been there for many, many years. Tell us about a success. Tell us about a moment that didn't go so well. Tell us about all those moments that we could use to get lessons from, so that everybody in the company can learn from this. And that's institutional knowledge. But institutional knowledge doesn't come from the leaders. It comes from everyone in the organization. You have to make the effort to interview those people, to get their stories and to share those stories. And I think increasingly that's why we're being called into organizations, is to help capture knowledge and transfer knowledge. It's just so important in terms of how processes work. Yeah.
Before you get to capturing their knowledge, maybe think about what you're doing to contribute to their need to depart, and what you did to help that process and lose all that talent. There's a lot of good people that walk off out the door on their own volition because they weren't valued. Things were hyper focused on one situation instead of digging deep and getting curious about what contributed to that. Don't do it in a convenient way. Do it in an honest way, and that's a big step forward. So yeah, I think there's so many lessons to learn about that process. Process improvement also has to do with us having a process improver about how we're approaching situations and finding some value and sense what goes wrong, but also what goes right. Just don't blast through and say, let's work on the next project now. Pay some time dissecting it, like you said.
It's so interesting because I do that. I dwell a lot on negative moments and sort of, say, okay,
We
how
do,
could
I know. We want to preach, but yeah.
Yeah, how could
But
I
we
have
have
avoided
to learn.
that? Well, it's natural. That's the thing.
I
And
know,
I think
but it's good.
that's the message, right? Is that we all do it. And so you might as well accept that as opposed to beating yourself up about it. But then I think flipping that to say, when were the things where you were successful, and why were you successful? What made that time successful? I think that's such an important question that we often gloss over. We tend to go negative, and that's just a natural kind of human habit. And I'm just remembering a moment, where I definitely had many moments like this, but I certainly remember moments where, like, what came to my mind as we were having this discussion was a time where training didn't go so well and why it didn't go so well. And I was kind of reliving that even as we were talking. And then this is all happening in the last minute. I just remembered, you know what? Last week, I did a class for a continuing education program at the University of New Mexico. Little plug here. If you want to do that, it's coming back in the fall. If you want to,
sneaking it in.
Yeah, if you want to come and check it out, it's coming back in the fall.
Very stealth, Jerome.
But the point I'm making is that it went really, really well, and one of the a really great moment. And I was just thinking, yeah, that's the thing I have to go back to. What happened to make that so successful, and why was it so successful? Because I think that there's something about that where you start to think about these moments where you were successful, you can then bring that knowledge to the moments that weren't so successful. And if you start applying that consistently, then I'm much more confident going into the next one, right? Even if it's got nothing to do context-wise and people-wise, but it's still, we're always teaching the same thing, more or less. It's a methodology, it's around listening, and it's around storytelling. And so, having that takes, that's consistent, but, you can then, thinking about those successful moments just makes you more confident. for the next one. And I can even now think about those negative moments and sort of thinking, oh yeah, if I'd applied this little thing that I did in that one, then that would have made it better. And I can now bring that to the future. So yeah, I think it's a great podcast to listen to, a great episode to listen to in terms of, your interest as listeners in improving processes, no matter what your process is, if it's just for yourself or for an entire team.
How we think is what we bring forward. And I'm smiling when you're talking about a training that didn't work well. I remember way back in graduate school, I went and took a group dynamics class where you dig into your subconscious for 3 days. And then I did a training the next day, not a good experience. And you have to think about that was then and that was now, and how can I play this forward and say, visualize good and visualize you stay always intense then. But learn from mistakes, have some humor about it at a distance, and then forge on forward and just keep talking about it. And I think you're in good state with great examples. We are our own students for sure. It's abundantly clear we're always learning.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, listeners, that's a great transition to you all. First of all, I want to thank everyone for listening, and then second, if you want to learn from past experiences, whether you deemed them successful or not so successful, you can turn those into stories, and you can come to us to support you for that. We're always ready to listen to you. You can go to narrative.com and narrative.com/podcast if you want to find more podcasts like this one. But also there's many other resources and ways to contact us on the website. Don't hesitate, always ready to listen to you, and very thankful for your listening right now. And I'm also thankful for your listening, Julienne. So thanks for being here.
Thank you. Always interesting. Thank you.
All right. See you all next time. Bye.
For more information on the narrative listening and storytelling method and how it can help your business, go to narrative.com.